Good morning. This is John from the Springs Mennonite Church, and I'm happy to be with you here today. I've been sharing this week some random scriptures and some random thoughts, and I have another one for you. Now, yesterday I talked about a couple of verses in Psalm 119, and I mentioned to you it was the longest psalm in the Bible. And so today I have a couple more verses. Let's look at verse 151 and verse 152 of Psalm 119. Here's what it says. But you are near, O Lord, and all your commands are true. I have known from my earliest days that your laws will last forever. Here the psalmist is talking about God in a way that many of us never experience. Now, I know when you start out as a youngster, if your parents are godly folks and talk about the Lord, he's out there. He's in heaven, and heaven is up there somewhere. And that's about all he is. Maybe he's a great big father time. Maybe he's an old man with a long beard. Maybe he's pictured on a throne. Maybe he's scary, and he is to some folks. But he probably isn't that. He's probably something very different. And this psalmist here is saying, but you, O Lord, are near. I think one of the greatest difficulties we have as people who want to serve God is believing that he's near all the time. Now, we have some moments when we're really sure of it. But boy, when times gets tough, that's when it's something else. And maybe you're one of those folks who have never known God to be near. Maybe you have spent your entire life never experienced the presence of God. And if that's true, then I want to invite you to listen a little further here. You are near, O God, and all your commands are true. Have you ever known anybody to be right all the time? Have you ever known anybody who was a real know-it-all? I mean, they really did know it all. Well, more likely you knew someone who thought they knew it all or who pretended to be right all the time. I remember the old, I, I think it was a beer commercial. I don't remember specifically. But the caption in the bottom line, the punchline was, never let them see you sweat. Never let your enemies or your followers see you being confused. And I experienced that in my life, taking people to Central and South America for a couple of weeks at a time. These were folks who had never done anything like that. And they really didn't know what to do. And I learned very early that I was responsible for their care. I was responsible for what they ate, for where they slept, how we got around, and I was especially responsible to make sure they got home safe and sound. Now, every once in a while, very rarely, somebody would take it upon themselves to know more, and almost without exception, it didn't turn out so good. But I learned that I had to demonstrate that I really was in charge here, and they trusted me. Now, sometimes I didn't tell them things until we got back because, wasn't real sure. I remember one time walking through the jungle. It was supposed to be a 7 kilometer walk, which would be about 3 miles or so. And after we'd been walking for a couple hours and it was getting dark, I asked someone how much further to so-and-so's house, and they gave me an answer. Actually said it was about 20 kilometers, which would have been 10 miles. And the guy next to me says, "What'd they say?" Because they didn't understand Spanish. And I said, "Well, either he doesn't know where this guy lives, or you don't want to know the answer. So we just keep walking." That's about all I could do, because if I had told him we had 10 more miles to go, he wouldn't have tried. You see, when we realize that God is near, that changes the ball game, because we're not alone. We're not by ourselves. We don't have to figure it out. And maybe you're in one of those spots right now where you're trying to figure it out. I have a friend who suddenly the member of the family died, and they're trying to figure out what are they going to do. And when I look at it, which I'm sure is the same way they're looking at it, they don't seem to be many options. But there are options when God's in charge and when He's near. And he goes on to say that all that you've commanded is true. Whatever God has written in the Bible is true. Now, I know the Old Testament's pretty harsh, but the New Testament isn't. And as groups of Christians who believe that Jesus was the ultimate expression of God, we follow Jesus' laws or Jesus' words, which are also God's words. And if he says crazy things like love your enemy, guess what? That ought to be your goal. In fact, to do otherwise is really not a fruitful plan. So it says, all of your commands are true. And then the psalmist says, I have known from my youth, earliest days, that your law will last forever. I didn't know about Jesus until I was in my first year of graduate school. I think I was about 24, 23. No, would have been about 22. I really hadn't heard much about it before that. I marvel at people who were raised in solid Christian homes, and they've heard about him since they were little. But compared to my age now, 22 was my youth. But it's marvelous when we've known God for a long time. And if you have, fantastic. But if you haven't, okay, today is a good day to start. Look around, see what you see. Talk to God, and then listen to what He might say back to you. I'm confident. Maybe you're not, but I'm confident. You can, if you can't trust God, trust the fact that I can trust God. Okay? I'm confident that God's promises of grace and love and compassion will last forever. Why don't you think about that? I'll be back tomorrow with another thought from another random passage in the Bible. But if you have some needs or something we can help you with, let us know. We'll do whatever we can as fast as we can to help out. Till tomorrow, I hope you have a wonderful day. God bless you. I'll talk to you again.